I sat down with Lynn Morris Piccolo, owner and vice president of Apple Montessori Schools. As a powerful, self-made businesswoman, she first explains what it is like to own and operate her own successful business. State your name and occupation.
Lynn Morris Piccolo. I am the owner and vice president of Apple Montessori Schools.
Tell me about the start of your business, Apple Montessori, and what are its roots?
So our business started, we're going into our 45th year. The schools are family owned and operated. They were started by my parents 45 years ago. We started with 2 preschools and a very small elementary school. And now we have grown to a very large elementary school and 15 preschools starting as young as 6 weeks to 12 years old.
And did you always know you wanted to get into education? What was your college major?
My major was education, so yes, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. I didn't know I'd want to get involved in management, so that was new for me.
So what is it like being your own boss and CEO of such a successful company?
Well, not as glamorous as you think. When you're a boss, you wear many, many hats. Even at this stage of the game, I do everything. I found myself in a classroom yesterday filling in for some teachers that were stuck in the snow. So I took over a class in a pinch and helped out there. Some days I find myself in board meetings, some days I find myself in management meetings, sometimes I'm meeting with accountants and attorneys and insurance agents, so it's a gamut of many different things.
And what is it like working alongside your sisters?
So family businesses are typically known to have challenges because everybody is so closely knit. Sometimes a family business isn't always rolled out properly for the next generation. So I think we felt a little bit of that in the beginning. So even though we have our challenges, we still remain very strong and respectful of each other. And we always do what's best for the business and for our employees, which we have 480 now.
So do you have any advice to young women entering the workforce?
Gosh, I think the advice I would give to young women would be the same advice I give to my own children. Find something that you like. You're not always going to be passionate about it. I think the millennials today feel like they have to find this tremendous passion and every day it's supposed to be great. And it's not. There's going to be days that are great and days that aren't. But I always feel like if you have a sense of purpose and you're giving back in some way, that's important. Always work hard.
Next, Lynn describes how a particular tragedy in her life has shaped both her family and the individual she has grown to become. Turning tables a little bit, how did you meet your husband, Seth?
Seth and I met in college. We rented a 2-family house in New Haven, Connecticut. He rented the upstairs apartment with his friend, and I rented the downstairs apartment with my friend. So basically, we have lived together since the day we met.
And what were his goals and dreams for his career, and how did he get started at Cantor Fitzgerald?
So when I met Seth, he didn't know what he wanted to do. He had transferred a couple of different colleges. He had received a degree in corporate recreational management, which I didn't even know was a degree. He was actually getting a teaching degree at Southern when we met. He also had a hotel restaurant management degree that he threw in there somewhere. So he's kind of all over the place. He knew he wanted to do 2 things: make a lot of money and make it fast. That was his goal. So he was very good with numbers. He had a photographic memory, so he could memorize any number. He just had to hear it once or see it once, and he could remember any number. It was quite a talent. People would try to stump him all the time with crazy numbers. He could also do insane math in his head, so he could add, subtract, divide, multiply massive numbers in his head. So one day I said to him, we were living in New Jersey, and he was looking through the want ads back then in a newspaper, and he said, I have no idea what to do. And I said, well, you've got this talent with numbers, why don't you just go on Wall Street? So he circled an ad, and it was for Cantor Fitzgerald, and it was his first job out of college. and he started at the very bottom, worked his way up, and he was there, I believe, about 15 years, maybe a little less, and he was a partner and a managing director, one of the youngest on Wall Street.
We just had a plane crash into level 4 of the World Trade Center, transmit a second alarm, and start relocating companies into the area.
So, tragically, your husband Seth was taken on September 11th, 2001. How old were you, and did you have any children at the time?
Yes, I was 35, and I had 3 children at the time.
And do you remember where you were and what you were doing when you heard about the attacks?
I was driving to one of my schools in New Jersey, and I heard it on the radio. Seth was also in the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center, so I flashed back to that. I thought it was something similar. Maybe back then they thought it was a transformer that blew, and so I spoke to him on the phone. I called him from, I actually had a cell phone, one of the first cell phones. I called him from the car as I was driving on Route 80, and I called him because I dropped Haley off at school, and Haley was starting kindergarten, and she was crying. Oh, she was so hard to start school. So she was crying, and she didn't want me to leave, and so I called him at work and I said, Haley's crying. I don't know what to do. He said, don't worry about it. We're going to have a play date this weekend with all her friends and she'll be fine. I'll start working on a list and start calling some of the dads so we can get it organized for Saturday. I said, great. And I said, yes, maybe that'll help. And then he said, oh, by the way, there's something going on here, some kind of explosion. Probably nothing, but if you can't reach me, it's probably like 1993 where all the phones are backed up, but don't worry, I'll be home.
And he has an interesting story with the 1993 bombing, and what is that?
So in 1993, he was at the top of the World Trade Center. He was on the 104th floor, and he was known for taking care of all of the women on his floor. He was very respectful of the women that he worked with. He made sure that even though it was back then especially such a male industry, he made sure that nobody would swear in front of any of the women or speak derogatory to any of the women. So when that happened, he had quite a few women at his side, and one was 9 months pregnant, and so he was concerned about the baby, and he took a handkerchief out of his jacket, he soaked it in water, and then he tied it around her mouth to protect the baby from any of the smoke, and then he carried her down 104 flights of stairs.
When you realized that it was going to impact you directly, what emotions and thoughts were going through your mind as you learned about the attacks in 2001?
So at that point, I went home. I didn't go to the schools, so I went home and I turned on the news with everybody else. Obviously, I was very distraught and worried, but I did believe he was going to come home. I thought he was going to get out, and it wasn't until about 3 a.m. and he hadn't come home did I realize he wasn't coming home.
And what is your most vivid memory of that day in 2001?
I remember watching the news, and I remember seeing the towers fall. Apparently I fainted after that. So then I remember waking up on a couch. Somebody moved me to the couch, and I remember just waking up, and I was in shock. Did
you have any other contact with Seth before he passed, other than that phone conversation?
No, but I did speak with many of the wives. There was two women that had been in touch with men on that floor, and they spoke about following a man who was very large. Somebody had said, there's a guy up here, he's huge, he looks like the Incredible Hulk, and we're all following him, and he is literally ramming desks through the walls, and we're going to climb up. We're going to go up to the rooftop, and I believe that was Seth.
Are there any lessons that you believe should be learned from what happened on September 11th?
Oh God, so many lessons over the years. One, we can't have it repeat itself. That's, I think, the most important lesson that we can take from that. There's so much politics involved with what's gone on. I think, in my schools, we teach, I do believe that the future is in the hands of children. In Apple, we teach our children to respect each other, to respect each other's differences. It's a very international school. We have children from all different backgrounds and nationalities, and all of our children come together as one, and they very much love and respect each other, as do the staff. As Americans, we need to do that more. We need to understand where other people are coming from, where their cultures are coming, what their background is, and what their fears are. I think as human beings, we all want the same thing. We want happiness and health for our children. We all have the same dreams and the same hopes, and we need to respect that. My greatest request, I'm not sure the right word, is that we just never let it repeat itself. And it's already started to, not on that magnitude, but...
And how has this day shaped you and your family, and how has it shaped your children?
So we're different people than we were back then. Wow, you got me, Joe. I think it's made us stronger, but I also think it's made us weaker, in a sense that I know we all worry too much. And I think when something so unthinkable happens, and it's so bizarre, it's not like, a car accident or cancer or something that people kind of expect and to a certain degree and think about or have maybe in the back of their mind, but something so bizarre and violent as a murder in your family, it changes the way you think.
So now it's 15 years later. If you could go back in time and have a conversation with yourself on 9/11, what would you say?
Wow. That I would be happy again. I didn't know if I would be.